to Wildcat Basketball Weekly, presented by Hughes Federal Credit Union, home of the official U of A Visa debit card. Show your Wildcat spirit and get your free debit card today. Visit them at hughesfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA.
Coach, 2 excellent wins over the LA schools last weekend. One of the keys was your team's bench play, outscoring the Trojans and Bruins by a combined 32 points. So my question is, what makes a good bench player?
That is a good question. I think number one is embracing their role. Do your job. You say it a lot in life. You really say it a lot in sports. Focus on the next play. What are you supposed to do on this play, not the last play? In football, if you just got beat as a cornerback for a long pass down the sidelines, you have to forget it. That'll be for the film session the next day. But you have to play the remaining game and move on to the next play and become who you're supposed to become. Basketball, guys who don't start the game, they have to embrace their role and learn to do their job. Some guys have more of a scoring role off the bench. Others are defenders. But I think once it's clarified, and that usually happens sometime in December, then it's a matter of them embracing who they are and recognizing that they're a really important part of our success.
Rebounding is always big, and you've already made it clear rebounding is going to be very important on this upcoming road trip. How much has your team improved in terms of its rebounding over the last month?
Well, we're doing an excellent job, and we're bolstered by, for example, Elliot Pitts and Gabe York off the bench. You don't really think rebounding when you watch those two guys play. But when we went to the state of Washington and played Washington and Washington State, a big reason we were great defensively was they really rebounded the ball. I think combined they had between 15 and 20 defensive rebounds in 2 games. But I think from our perspective, we're lucky in that we have 2 wing players, Stanley Johnson and Rondé Hollis Jefferson, who by the standards of the game today do as good of a job as anybody that plays, being that they're not front court players, and you look at their production, both on the offensive and defensive glass. I talked about Gabe and Elliott, but TJ McConnell as a point guard is an excellent defensive rebounder. So we have a lot of people helping, Brandon Ashley, Caleb Tarzuski, and Deuson. And I think it's a team front. We recognize that that's part of what's going to make us a good team. And when you think about being a great defensive team, what can be more important than getting the ball? And that's what the rebound means.
In the desert Southwest, there is a dominant force, delivering powerful results with unmatched capabilities and dynamic leadership. From the people who brought you U of A debit cards and banking at your fingertips, Hughes Federal Credit Union.
Hughes, that's my team. Let's do this.
Wow, an Academy Award winner, right, Wilbur?
Wildcat Basketball Weekly continues, presented by Hughes Federal Credit Union.
Coach, you're going to play at high altitude in both Boulder and Salt Lake City, and we talked about your bench. Does that mean that you are going to, up the rotation in games like this where the guys might be a little bit winded early?
Not really. We might get the bench in the game a little quicker, but I think at the end of the game, what I hope you see is that we played the game pretty much how we've done it since November. We're in a habit. You talked about bench. Part of what makes those guys comfortable and who they are is that it's roughly the same game in and game out, that they trust that they're going to get into the game in at about the same time and have a similar role. Although it may not be identical, we're counting on them. The same with how you play the rotation and the subs. So, we're hydrating. Our guys have played in altitude. It's not as if you're not going to be able to breathe as much as I think your wind leaves you a little earlier. And then once you get used to it, I don't even think it's a factor. And that's how we've presented it. And I would look at that as being very minor in terms of the other things we're looking at on this trip.
Okay, on this trip, you're going to face Askia Booker and DeLon Wright. probably two all-conference players. Are they similar at all, and are they the two key guys that make both Colorado and Utah at their best?
Well, Askia Booker really got our attention. Not that we needed it, because he's played against us, I believe, 7 times now. 3 as a freshman, 3 as a sophomore. No, more than that. I think 9 times he's played against Arizona, and he's been really a huge factor in all of the games that he's played against us, because since his freshman year, he's been a part of Colorado basketball. In the last game that we played, he was great. It was probably the best performance against our defense all season long from a perimeter player. He's more of a scorer than DeLon Wright, but no question, he's a big part of what we have to stop when we play Colorado, and I think every team feels the same way. In terms of Utah, DeLon Wright, his excellence is that he contributes in every statistical category. Like some of the players we talked about earlier, he's a great rebounder for a guard. He doesn't have to shoot threes to score, but he's a scorer. He's one of the leading assist players in our conference. Steals, that's the first thing that he did well last year that got your attention, and he's continued that in his second year. He blocks shots. So he anchors their defense, their offense, and it's his well-roundedness that makes him such a terrific player. And I believe one of the best that plays college basketball.
Thank you for watching Wildcat Basketball Weekly, presented by Hughes Federal Credit Union, home of the official U of A debit card. Visit them at hughesfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA.